try to come up with some solutions for the team. We'll do it in just a second here on a New Year's Eve edition of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Caught me a little rhythm today. Caught me a little rhythm with that intro. And we appreciate you joining us here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day and making us your first listen. And we are free on all platforms. What am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about fixing this team, and I'm going to do some names because it never comes out the way we think it's going to happen. It never, fixing the team never really goes the way we think it's going to go. It's always a little bit different. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to actually fix the team and be a little bit specific. Now, we're doing this without knowing who or what or how or why there's going to be a change in the front office or with the coaching staff. We obviously know they're going to hire a coach. From what I gather, the Jaguars did interview Doug Peterson. So we're going to see how that turns out. But we're going to also sort of pretend to be GM today. And that's what I want to do just for the New Year's, to give you guys something to think about. So the easiest thing would be to go into free agency and think that the Jaguars are going to sign Michael Gallup, right? There's always a little something differently that happens. So we're going to be a little bit different today. The easiest thing would be like, okay, they'll franchise tag Cam again. They'll sign Michael Gallup. They'll sign Mike Williams, the wide receiver from the Chargers. They'll maybe go after a veteran defensive lineman like Akeem Hicks or someone like that. And maybe then they'll get an edge rusher like Hassan Reddick because they got all of this cap space. They'll sign J.C. Jackson as another corner, as a third corner. All of these things that you can come up with, right, in free agency. I'm gonna give you a scenario. I'm gonna blow your mind. I'm gonna try to give you some things to think about. Let's just assume, just like everything else, that the draft and free agency is a little bit different than we think the status quo things are. Like last year, Trevor Lawrence was obviously at number one. I talked about the possibility of them taking Travis Etienne with that second first-round pick, but everyone knew it was going to be like a wide receiver. But then after that, we had no clue that Tyson Campbell, it was Trayvon Merrick, it was all of these other names, and it was like a lot of the same names over and over and over again that folks thought were going to be Jaguars. And as it turns out, none of them were associated with the team. So we're going to be different, and we're going to do the same thing. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a different twist on how I think it'll go. Let's hit free agency. Let's start out right now. I'm going to tell you right now that because of the injury to Chris Godwin and the fact that most people believe that Devontae Adams will play either with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay or wherever Aaron goes, or he's going to go and play with his best friend, Derek Carr, in Vegas. All right, so let's just assume that he's not going to come here at this stage. And with the mess that's going on right now, if you're a Hall of Fame wide receiver, why would you? What's the incentive of you coming here, right? Those two guys are off the market. So the reason why Robert Gallup has always been the guy that I said that the Jaguars needed to go after was this. He's like a number two receiver, but he gives you the speed element. The other thing is Dallas, even though they seem to find money from somewhere, Dallas is going to have a hard time paying him. They're going to have a hard time paying that tight end, and they're going to have a hard time paying Randy Gregory. Now that, especially with Gregory's a great player, and with the protocols for marijuana, the testing being different, he's less likely to be suspended again. So they have a lot of guys that they're already paying. They're paying Cooper, the wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb is their one alpha receiver, their 1B rather. He's a big time player. You can't afford to pay. You got Zeke and Tyron and all of these guys. DeMarcus Lawrence is making a boatload of money. You can't afford to pay your third wide receiver what I would be prepared to offer him, which is like a 5-year, $80 million deal, right? You can't afford to pay that. But the thing is Gallup's a really, really good player, and a lot of people have seen it now, and they know it. So just because the Jags have the most cap space doesn't mean the team doesn't have to have a whole lot of cap space to compete with Jacksonville. They just have to have the ability to sign one guy that they want. So if you're a really, really good team and you think you're that close and you want Michael Gallup, then you're probably going to get Michael Gallup, right? The cap space helps you when you can structure deals a certain way that you can have a big cap hit in the first year where the other team, if they try to sign him to that same deal, they can't do it. The thing is they don't have to, if he's not tagged, they don't have to match anything. So you kind of lose that a little bit. And then the other thing is, if they're just trying to sign one guy, and the cap space really helps you as the Jaguars because you can do a plethora of things and you can do multiple things. So let's just say, for the sake of this exercise, we don't get Michael Gallup. Tell you where you need to go. You need to go to Arizona and try to sign Christian Kirk. That's my second option at wide receiver because he plays in the slot, and I think we don't really understand how important that particular position is. He's quick. He plays in the slot. He's a deep threat. Christian Kirk, come on down. You're the first person we've signed for our New Year's resolution or our New Year's, let's come up with a resolution for the Jaguars. So you don't get Michael Gallup, but you get Christian Kirk. I like it. I just told you Dallas can't re-sign everybody, right? I go after Randy Gregory next because they have Lawrence. They have Michael Parsons. You know what? They're going to pay a third. They're going to pay a third guy, a third pass rusher, a bunch of money. I break the bank for Randy Gregory. 29 years old. Like I said, all of the issues that he had because of the testing protocols, those really don't exist anymore. He seems like he's really got it together. I will give Randy Gregory a very good deal in the neighborhood of 4 years, about $90 million. So now we got a pass rusher and we have a slot wide receiver. The next thing I would do is I'd look at my offensive line. I go to another team that's cash strapped. And I know he's been hurt this year, but I would look at 31-year-old Teron Armstead and say, I want you to come here and we're going to pay you, but we're going to bring a buddy with you. I would go to the 49ers and I would get Laken Tomlinson. So now you've got left guard, left tackle with veterans, guys that are 29, 30 years old, and in Teron Armstead's case, 31 years old. I give him whatever it takes. It's going to take you about 5 years, maybe $90 million to get Armstead. It's probably going to take you 3 years, $30 million to get Laken Tomlinson. So now you got a left guard who's playing for the 49ers and a left tackle that plays for the Saints. So see what I've done? I got 4 people. I'm going to get one more in before the draft. One more in before the draft. Give me that tight end that Dallas has, right? I'll go after him before I go after like Evan Ingram. So if I get Schultz to tight end and I pay him a bunch of money too, because Dallas actually does have another tight end behind him. And just like they have a receiver, Cedric Wilson, who's behind Robert Gallup, who can step right in and be their number 3. I would go after these teams that have these good players that are up against it with the cap, and I would just try to outbid everybody. So now I got Schultz, the tight end. I got an edge rusher in Randy Gregory. I didn't take Michael Gallup because I didn't want for this exercise, I didn't want it to appear that all I was doing was just going to get all Dallas's players. But I do get Christian Kirk as a slot receiver, right? And so now you also have fixed the left side of the line with veterans. This means Norwell and Cam Robinson are gone, okay? Now you go like, okay, so we're going in a draft with the number 1 pick, and the 2 top people in the draft are both edge rushers. But you got Randy Gregory and you got Josh Allen. So the whole world is saying he's not going to take an edge rusher. He still needs wide receivers. And he's not going to take Evan Neal, is he? Because Evan Neal is a left tackle like Teron Armstead. And you got Laken Tomlinson at left guard. Wig, what are you doing? What are you doing, Wig? Tell you what I'm going to do. Right before draft day, I'm going to make a trade with the Seattle Seahawks. But I'm not going to trade the number 1 pick from this year. I'm going to trade the number 1 pick for next year, along with edge rusher Josh Allen, along with a 2nd-round pick for this year, for DK Metcalf. Now stop. She said, Wig, what are you doing? You giving up a first rounder next year. You giving up Josh Allen in the fourth year of his rookie deal, and you trading away an edge rusher. What did you just tell me was at the top of the draft, y'all? Edge rushers, right? But I got a surprise for you. I'm gonna explain this in more depth of why at this point I would be willing to do that if Seattle would bite on it and give me DK Metcalf. And I'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars on New Year's Eve after I tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar, it's the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good. You'll want to eat it, unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy and taste like a chemical spill. You want to eat healthy, but it gets so boring. By like week 3, you're like, man, please, let me, where's the chocolate at? Okay, Built Bar is the chocolate because it's covered with 100% chocolate. And here's the macros, man. Check this out: 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to any candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories and 30 grams of sugar and dozens of carbs. An idea for you for the new year: uh, make sure you have Built Bars all around your house and have secret stashes. Have them everywhere you want to go because they're wrapped up in really good packaging that protects them and they won't get all nasty and get all melted on you. All right. So what you got to do is go to built.com, enter the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. There's no excuse for you to not have some deliciousness while you're trying to eat healthy. Do it at built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off of your order. All right, trying to bring some order and restore some tradition back to Jacksonville. Did I just trade next year's first round pick, Josh Allen, and this year's second round pick to the Seattle Seahawks for DK Metcalf? Yes, I did. Why'd you give up all of that? Well, I wasn't giving up this year's first round pick because they need it. When we signed Randy Gregory, I know everyone assumes, okay, so now Josh has a guy on the other side. He has a bookend, and this will make him play better. Did you have any idea that I was going to trade Josh, did you? Here's why I'm going to trade Josh. His name is still hot enough, and he has enough tread, and he has enough cachet that other teams will find value in him. Because you're going to have to give up something to get a 23-year-old wide receiver. Okay, and obviously you're going to agree to an extension with DK Metcalf for about 5 years for about $100 million. That's already done. Okay, I just don't think he's as good as people think. But his name still carries enough weight that you can put him in a package with a pick or two to a team that's probably going to end up trading Russell Wilson, that probably thinks that your number one pick next year is going to be very, very high, but we got something in store for them because it ain't going to be as high as you think. The reason why I do it at this point is because DK is 23, and people say you don't trade compensation away for a guy that you have to pay. I don't want to pay Josh Allen. I don't want to exercise the fifth-year option, and I don't want to pay him the kind of money that he's going to be required on the market next season. Therefore, you move him now, okay? You move him while his name is still hot, and you get Randy Gregory, and you still now have the people thinking right before draft night, oh, he's going after Hutchinson or Thibodeau to be on the other side of Randy Gregory. So that's why he made this move. They would be wrong. I'm not doing that either, and I'll explain that to you. But that's the line of thinking. You always have to make people think you're doing this or doing that. So now the fact that you no longer have two edge rushers at the top of the draft, you have one. You have Randy Gregory, and folks are going to sit here and wonder. So he is going after the guy at the top, one of those edge rushers. So the pick now has more value. We'll trade up for it. But before, when he had Randy Gregory and Josh Allen, nobody's going to want to trade up with him because they go, our guy's going to be there anyway. There's no way he's taking a third guy in that scenario. So now you just pulled a fast one on everyone. Now people who are in that top 5 or top 4 that want to get up and take one of those guys that they fall in love with, and I'll tell you what I think the difference is in both of them. Now people are like, wait a minute. Just wait 1 minute. We have to trade up to go get our guy. Get back to the draft in just a second. DK Metcalf. I give him all that money because he's dynamic, he's big, he's physical. The Seahawks are in rebuild mode. I want to get Trevor some weapons. First of all, I'm protecting his left side with veterans. I have Christian Kirk, and now I have DK Metcalf. So at worst, if you don't get any other receiver, your third receiver is now the one of the guys you already have. And by the way, we did not bring back DJ Chark either. So you have Schultz at tight end. You have ETN coming back off of injury. You have James Robinson at some point coming back off injury. You have your left side protected. You have fast Christian Kirk. You got big and strong and fast DK Metcalf. You can't say you don't have any speed anymore, right? Now you got Randy Gregory on defense. You need to show up that side of the ball. So I go into the draft and I look at Hutchinson and I had a debate earlier this year, and I stand by what I said. And even the scouting reports that you read about Hutchinson versus Thibodeau, they say exactly what I said, that Thibodeau's a freak, okay? Hutchinson has a little bit of freakazoid in him too, but Thibodeau is different. And most of the people who even rank Hutchinson ahead of him, they talk about Thibodeau's that he has a higher ceiling. So me saying that doesn't mean he's going to get picked first, but it's the truth. Even the people that say Hutchinson will go first will tell you that Thibodeau has a higher ceiling. And it's not black or white either. Thibodeau's like been that dude since the day he was born. Hutchinson worked himself up to it. So guys that have to work themselves up to it just don't have a dude that was just born like a T-Rex. And that's what Thibodeau is. Which do I prefer? If I'm going to run a four-man front, I probably take Hutchinson. If I'm running a 3-4, I take Thibodeau. I think Thibodeau is a little more twitchy. Someone said yesterday, and I forgot who it was. It was someone, I think it might have been, it was David Pollack. He said that it's easy. For me, it's real easy or lazy to compare Hutchinson to one of the Bosa guys. He said the guy reminds him of is Chris Long. And Chris Long was a top 5 pick. Chris Long was a very good player, one of my favorite people in the NFL. And if somebody's comparing him to Chris Long, I think that's great. But is that what you want at number one? Be honest with yourself. I don't think so. I think Chris Long's a great player, but that's a great comp. And that's nothing to be ashamed of if someone compares you to Chris Long. But that's not number one. You know what I'm saying? That's not number one. I said a couple of weeks ago that, and I might be proven wrong in the national championship semifinals or whatever, but this is just my assessment before we actually see it. I said if you had to take Evan Neal or one of those edge rushers, and whoever you don't take, you have to play. So if I don't take Evan Neal and I take one of the edge rushers, we have to line up tomorrow, and that guy has to go against Evan Neal. If I take Evan Neal and not one of the edge rushers, we have to line up tomorrow, and that guy has to go against the guy I didn't take. I take Evan Neal over either one of them and won't lose 1 ounce of sleep at night. So does that mean that Evan Neal has more value from a team perspective? No, but it might mean that Evan Neal is the best player of all three of them, if that's how you feel. But I'm not taking him either. So it's draft night. What do? I'm going to tell you what we do. We'll get to it in just a second here in the third and final segment of Locked On Jaguars on a new year. After I tell you about BetOnline, BetOnline has you covered this holiday season with more props and odds and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the college bowls and the pro football playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website to use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, boxing, UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports, so don't wait to take advantage of the new amazing offers. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where your podcasting day starts is right here on Locked On Jaguars, making us your first listen every single day, and we appreciate that. On this New Year's Eve version, the last show of the year, last show of the week, and we're giving you the goods on what Wig would do as a New Year's resolution to fix this team. So let's just see. We got DK Metcalf and we got Christian Kirk. This ain't different. I've been working on this stuff now. So this is a little bit different from anything you've seen. Detroit really, really probably wants Hutchinson. He is their guy. He's home. He's their home-fed dude. And let's just say Detroit is sitting at number 2, which is where they are now. And they want to offer you their pick and their other first-round pick, which is number 30, I believe. And they say, we'll trade you both of those picks just to move down one spot. I tell them to sweeten the deal a little bit. Sweeten the deal a little bit. Give me a second-round pick next year. Deal. Boom. They move up. They take Hutchinson. You're sitting at number 2. You can get your boy Tibbs if you want to. But somebody really, really, really loves that kid. And they want him bad. Let's just say it's the Falcons. And the Falcons want to give you their pick, which is around 9 or 10, which puts you out of Evan Neal territory. But you can get a second and a third round pick. So the number 1 pick we're giving up next year, we're going to make sure we get multiple picks, and we're going to use this draft. We're going to try to end up with 14, 15. We want 2 drafts in 1 this year. I do it. Go ahead. Come up and get your guy, man. I move back again. So now you're at the 9 area, right? You're around that 9 area. You don't have a second rounder, but you have an additional first rounder in the rear because of what you did with Detroit. What do? I move around just a little bit more and try to get into the teams, maybe hit New Orleans up depending on who's on the board, or if there's a quarterback hungry team and they want to come up and take the quarterback that hasn't been taken, Corral or Pickett. But I'd make sure I did not get past number 13, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a player in this draft I absolutely, absolutely love. And it ain't a wide receiver, all right? You've addressed the wide receiver position, although you're going to touch it a little bit more. Who is it? His name is Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green is a guard. After watching on film, after looking at my film study, he's a guard who's played tackle at Texas A&M. I would draft Kenyon Green because I think when I look at guys and I say, who can be a Hall of Famer on this list? Evan Neal's one of them. I think both those pass rushers have a shot. The one guy that keeps jumping out at me on tape is Kenyon Green, the guard who plays left guard, left tackle at Texas A&M. He's about 6'4", and he goes about 325, 330 pounds. Being that we addressed that left side, I'm going to use this pick to address the right side. I'm going to put Kenyon Green right next to Brandon Linder at right guard, and he's going to be my first pick in this year's draft. And I know everybody's all pissed, like, Kenyon Green? We don't want Kenyon Green. You did all that to move back to take a guard? Okay, just look at the totality of what we've done. I'm going to let Walker Little compete at right tackle with the kid that's at right tackle right now. It's early. Okay. Juwan Taylor. I'm going to plant Kenyon Green on one side of Brandon Linder. I'm going to plant Laken Tomlinson at left guard. I'm going to put Teron Armstead out at left tackle. I got Schultz at tight end. I got DK Metcalf lined up outside. And I got Christian Kirk in my slot. What are you going to do with defense? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do in defense. Right at the end of that first round, hovering around that first round area, with that other pick that Detroit gave me, I'm going to sit and I'm going to pray that Jermaine Johnson from FSU falls right into my lap. And if he doesn't, I'll use some draft capital to move up a little bit and take him. However, if he's gone, that would be my first selection. If he's gone, I'll go right back to wide receiver and I'll take Jahan Dotson, the kid who was a track star in high school, 100-meter champion, 4x100 anchor on tracks, was a long jumper. Even though he's 5'11", he's not considered a slot guy. He's an outside receiver, and he's been running past people in the Big Ten all year. Jermaine Johnson or Jahan Dotson would be who I would take in the second round. Now you go, Wig, you ain't addressed that defense at all. Yeah, that's why you got all of these extra picks. So right there in the second round, that's where I find that quality, that Tyson Campbell, Asante Samuel Jr. type quality again, and I'd address the defensive backs. I would also address defensive tackle. There's a kid at Tennessee that's probably going to go in a third round area named Matthew Butler that'll give me some of that toughness, youth, some of that same stuff that kid New England took out of Alabama last year. Some of that toughness, some of that youth. I would then come back in the third and fourth round again with these extra picks. Remember, they still have Carolina's third or fourth round pick. And I get guys, football playing Jessies, guys like Jack Sanborn, a middle linebacker out of Wisconsin, who can really play. Also, if you didn't get your edge rusher, there'll be guys like Drake Jackson from USC in that 6'4", 260-pound range that can play opposite Randy Gregory. I'd use that to really address the back end of the draft. There are a lot of really good players. If you're thinking like we're still running this hybrid sort of Baltimore-ish type defense, there are a lot of really good players like O'Shawn Mathis, an edge from TCU that can give you some. Baltimore and Ozzie Newsome made a living trading back and getting into that fourth and fifth round areas. That's where they made a killing at. If you go back and look at Baltimore's draft, when they found their guys on the offensive line and defensive line and their linebackers and even some of their DBs, when they found all of these people, when you say, how come they keep churning these dudes out? They found them in that fourth and fifth round area. And they would get, Ozzie was a master at moving back, moving down in the first, second, third, and just getting a bunch of picks right smack in the middle of the draft, those day three guys. Also, the other thing that I would do, I'll tell you another good player, a guy named Chad Muma from Wyoming. He's a very good player. You can find your nickel corner. You can find your depth. Chase Lucas, a cornerback from Arizona State. Deontay Taylor, a guy who will be around in that third round from Tennessee, where you can find these athletic guys to help shore up your defensive backfield. But that tweener area, that edge, that Mike linebacker, with guys like Chad Muma, with guys like Jack Sanborn, with guys like O'Shawn Mathis, with all of these other names that you could get, guys that will be there in the fourth and fifth round. Let me tell you two other guys that I really like that'll be there around the fourth, fifth, and maybe even early part of the sixth round. Running backs, Dameon Pierce and Brian Robinson Jr. Physical, tough guys that played in process, that know how to pass protect. Robinson can really catch the ball. Those guys break tackles. I absolutely love them. I would make sure that I start showing up that third and fourth running back position and stop using it as just something where we just go find a dude. I want a guy who can actually, the way the 49ers do it, when they put a third or fourth running back on the field, this dude is churning out yards. That's exactly the type of thing that I think the Jaguars need. They need that toughness. They need a dude we can all get behind, a Stacey Mack kind of guy that we can all just get behind and we know what's coming and they know what's coming and they can't stop it. So there you go. For the new year, I've given you sort of an alternative look at some of the things that could possibly happen for the Jacksonville Jaguars this offseason. And one of the scenarios that I've been doing over the weeks that I've been doing this, that kind of gives you some different names to look at and a different method and way to build this team. But can you imagine having DK Metcalf and Christian Kirk on the same offense? Nobody will be mad that you gave up a first-round pick next year. And, oh, by the way, here's the thing. That pick, if it's up to me, would be 16th or 17th because I think with the guys that I just mentioned, the Jaguars will move forward. This is all about putting people in a place around Trevor Lawrence that's going to give him the best chances to succeed. You got it? Got it. Happy New Year. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. People keep throwing out scenarios, and I do it too. So I decided to drop some names on you to give you something to think about when you start doing your free agency list and then when you start doing your draft list. Some things to think about, some scenarios to think about. I'll probably change it and do another one. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I enjoyed you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to Locked On Jaguars every single day, making us your first listen. It's been a really good year, a record-breaking year for the network, a record-breaking year for this podcast, and we appreciate you wholeheartedly. You guys have been through a lot for the Jaguars with coaches and all of this stuff and the constant losing, but you're right there. I do appreciate you, and without you, there is no us. So we thank you. Happy New Year to you all, your family. Please be safe and enjoy this time, the last day of 2021.